Jeg er ikke helt sikker på, om jeg er live. Det ser ud til at være lidt forsinket. Okay, it's very, very delayed. Hopefully I can edit it afterwards. You know when you're cutting with scissors and you sit and cut with scissors and it goes like that and your jaw goes like that. Almost as if your jaw is helping with the cutting with the scissors. Or you're driving on the motorway, right? And you're going like 100 kilometers an hour and not quite sure where to go. So a sign comes up and then you lean 10 centimeters forwards to look at the sign. So you're going 100 kilometers an hour and leaning forward 10 centimeters as if that is going to help you with reading the sign. Or you can't remember somebody's name. And as soon and you want to remember and you close your eyes and you clench your jaw and you go, start with lots of different sounds because you can't remember the name, as if the clenching the jaw and all the faces you pull and all of that is helping you recalling the name. Those three are perfect examples of useless stuff we do, where we don't have any, we're actually not aware of doing it, but we do it and subconsciously we believe that it's gonna enhance the thing we're doing. And it's really good when we want to talk about non-duality, because non-duality is teaching you to do nothing because you already are. And I think that where a lot of the misunderstanding when we talk about non-duality, where a lot of it happens, is that we refuse to acknowledge that we have this perceived person. So all the sensory experiences that you get, the way that you perceive your reality, the way you perceive the world around you, it's based on what you feel, of what you see and hear and smell and taste, and all that sensory information is going to the brain, and the brain is creating a meaning with it. So you don't know what it is you're seeing when you see a strawberry. You only know it because the brain has a previous experience with the strawberry where you tasted it and you smelled it and that created that meaning of what a strawberry is. So when I say strawberry now, for your inner eye, you can see the strawberry and you can smell the strawberry, you can taste the strawberry, and you have an opinion about strawberry. In that opinion, where opinion is created, there's someone believing itself to exist as you is created. And because that someone believing itself to exist is in this biology that is sensing, we tend to believe that me, myself, and I am in this body and this is my body. Truth is that there is no you. There's a perception of a you, but there is no you. Where it starts to get complicated is that you're probably going to sit and say, well, obviously there's a me, you know, I know that I'm a woman. I know that this is my life. I know that this is my house. I know that all that is real. But it's only real in a perceived reality. And that's where sometimes I feel that it goes a bit wrong when we talk about non-duality, because a lot of non-duality teachers, they dismiss the perceived reality. And they have such a focus on, well, you are not you, and you're not. I completely agree. However, the perceived reality, the illusion of this perceived reality is influencing the biology. It is influencing the psychology. The perception you have of you, the person that you believe you to be, you only believe that because others have told you what they believe of you. You have from a very, very early age been told that if you do that, then you are good. If you do that, then you are bad. And then you have conformed yourself with that reality. So you're only doing the good and you avoid to doing the bad. And that dualistic thinking is only within the illusion, but it is shaping the biochemistry, the neurochemistry, and the psychology of the biology. So the someone believing itself to exist is tied into the biology. We can agree on that it's just an illusion, but it counts. It counts. And I think it's a dangerous path to go down of when we completely refuse the illusion and say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not real anyway. So it's just an illusion. It doesn't really matter. It's a dangerous path to go to enter, because a lot of spiritual bypassing is happening. Whenever you have, for example, let's say that you have traumas, early childhood traumas. By going down the this is all an illusion path, you might end up with a spiritual bypassing saying, so it didn't happen, so it doesn't matter. And it's true that it didn't happen. It happened in a perceived reality by a perceived someone in a perceived physical being, but it still shaped who you perceive yourself to be. So it is true that there's not a specific someone here. It's just like if I ask you you look at a table and you explain a table. And then I ask you, okay, you say that it has like a piece of wood and then it's got 4 legs that it's standing on. How much can you remove from that until it's not a table anymore? You know, you can remove 1 leg. Okay, it could still be a table, only with 3 legs. You can remove another leg. It can still balance, maybe if you put it correctly. You can still say it's a table. But if you move 1 more leg, okay, you can balance it in 1 leg. It could still be construed as a table. So how much of it can you remove? How much can you cut of the leg until it's no longer a dining table, but a sofa table? And how much can you remove of the top of the table for it not to be a table anymore? And it's the same with your body. So this is your body. This is what you perceive as your body. This is what you perceive as your physiology. What if you lose a leg in an accident? Is this no longer your body? Is this no longer you? How much can you remove from that where you're still you? And that can only happen because there is no you to begin with. You know? So when we talk about non-duality, we talk a lot about what is that is truth behind it all. And when I do the bunny ears, when I say behind, it's because there's no direction when we talk about non-duality. Non-duality is when you just are. There's no you and there's no here. There's no past, present, or future. There just is. And it's where the you dissolve itself and are with what is. And that is already. It's not something which you can achieve or you can go to, or you can pull yourself together and meditate or go for a run or anything, and then you will experience it. It's already here. It's like, I find it so funny with courses that teaches you to be in the now. I mean, you can't be anywhere else but the now. There is just the now. So learning in your perceived reality to be anywhere else but where you already are, it makes no sense whatsoever. And it's the same when we talk about non-duality. You already are. You are there already. But the perceived reality of this physical being, of the I, the me, and the my, and the you, and the them, and the all of that, that perceived reality deludes us into believing that I am not there. I'm not the way I should be. I can improve. I can be better. Somewhere out in the future, I can improve myself, and then I can be better. And the problem with that is that as soon as I usually talk about in the perceived reality, we have the dualistic ego and the authentic on one. So you got the ego on one side and you got the authentic on the other side. It's only in the perceived reality that it's like that, but it's how we perceive ourselves and the world and everything. We do that between those two. And I have made lots and lots and lots of videos where I talk about the ego and the authentic. It's the one that is perceiving and the one that is observing. It's two completely different things. The ego is the one that is greedy and petty and what only thinking about me. It's very much tied into time. So it has huge dopamine releases, and it's the adrenals are working, creating stresses, and the ego is tied into that biology, and it's a very, very predictable pattern for the ego personality. Where the authentic or the observer, it's the one that sees beyond all that has the capacity of feeling compassion and feeling unconditional acceptance to whatever is, that has no issue whatsoever with needing to make aware of me, because the authentic person knows it doesn't really matter. I have no significance whatsoever. Anyways, when you are in the perceived reality, you're split between those two all the time. That is the dual living, the dual perceived reality. And a lot of time the ego wants us to achieve something that's, for example, oh, I'm so selfish. I don't want to be selfish anymore. I really want to be altruistic. I really want to help other people and be there for other people. So because when I do, then I feel so much better with myself. Okay, great. So you don't want to be selfish. So you selfishly feel better about yourself. Another thing we do is that we forget, when we are in the perceived reality, we forget that we can't do anything without doing. You not doing anything is doing. For example, I'm not sure if I should quit my job. I'm really not happy, but I'm not sure if it's a good idea. So I'm just going to wait and see what's going to happen before I decide. Do you realize that in that you have just decided to stay in your work? You've just decided not to quit your job. So every time we believe that we're not doing anything, we're actually doing something. If I tell you to one of my favorite meditations, it's just sitting. And I'm definitely going to talk more about that at some point. I'm going to talk a lot about meditation, I promise you. One of my favorite meditations is just sitting. And when I ask people just to sit down, close your eyes, and just be with what is, a lot of people perceive it as sitting down and doing nothing. But as soon as you sit down, you do something. As soon as you close your eyes, you do something. As soon as you are with what is, you do something. So you can never not do anything. You are always doing, because that is part of the perceived reality. The ego and the authentic are in the dualistic perceived reality where we do things. Non-duality is happening on the plane where nothing happens, where there is no back and forth, where there just is. But because we have this biology and we have this perception of I and the perception of self and the perception of me, we tend to make everything so personal. we get so super offended when somebody says, oh, you're so arrogant, or you're never listening, or you don't know what you're talking about, or anything. We get so upset with what other people think. And then we spend so much time trying to let go of it and not be influenced by it. And what I'm saying is that can never happen. If you're influenced and you're affected by it, you're influenced and affected by it. So pretending and lying to yourself about what is not leading you anywhere. The only thing you can do is to be with what is. And the thing is, when you do that, when you are with what is and have no interest in changing it, so whatever comes up is allowed to come up, that is actually practicing your authentic being, where you have a complete acceptance, an unconditional acceptance of everything. You have unconditional love to whatever comes up. And when you do that, then you're actually closer to the non-duality experience of nothingness, no thing, but just being. So it's important to talk about the physical biological being, and it's important to talk about the illusion that we live in. We need to talk about the illusion, because it's the only way that you will ever discover that there is no you and I. By being with the illusion of the experience, it's the only way that you're going to discover what is beyond that. And you do that by acknowledging what is. So whatever trauma you have in your past, whatever things about yourself you do not like, let's say you're super selfish, the only thing you can do with that, it's not the opposite. It's not being altruistic, because you do that not to feel selfish anymore. That is just emphasizing the selfishness. I don't want to be selfish, so now I'm going to do everything not to be selfish out of selfish means, out of a selfish reason. If you instead embrace what already is, yeah, you're selfish. You're selfish, be with that. Do not try to change that. Just accept that this is how it is. You don't need to pile on and do a lot of selfish things and make it worse, but it's the accepting and the creating space for what already is. It's already there. You're already selfish, create space for that. The thing I said about the work before, if you're not sure if you should quit your work or if you just should stay in the work, create space for the doubt. I'm not sure what to do, so now I'm just going to be with the doubt. I'm okay with having this body that are doubting everything. I'm okay with being in this physical being right now, and I can feel the knot in my stomach, and I can feel the headache coming and all of that. It's okay. I can be with that. I can live with that. It's okay. And by doing that, you create a space where your bubble of reality, I'm going to make another video where I talk about the bubble of reality. You create space for where your bubble of reality is expanding a little bit, where whatever is no longer fear evoking. And if it's fear evoking, you are with that fear evoking experience. So not changing anything, just being with what is. Okay, I just got a question. What are you saying? And making you say that that it seems comforting that trauma is nobody's fault. Yes, because when we talk about, first of all, when we talk about non-duality, there is no fault. There's no trauma. There's no you. There's no me. There's no thing. But in the perceived reality of this physiology, of this biology that might have experienced trauma, it helps a lot not to put any fault anywhere, not to put any guilt or shame anywhere. if you have done something, I mean, we all do completely silly stuff. All of us, none of us are excused from that. We have lives full of huge mistakes, you know. If you don't place any guilt or shame, if you don't place any fault, but instead you are with the experience that you have right now. For example, if trauma has happened and you don't place any fault or guilt or shame on the one that caused the trauma towards you. I'm not saying that you're condoning. I'm not saying that you say, great job in the rape, great job in the mugging, great job in the stabbing or whatever happened, great job in the hitting a small child. I'm not talking about condoning at all. I'm talking about not placing fault, not placing guilt and shame, but instead you own the experience that you have. If you were abused as a child, hit as a child, let's say, that you then stay with you as the loving mother and the compassionate and protecting father, where you are with you, the experience that you have of you, the pain that you have of being you, that you create space of that instead of trying to get away with it, trying to not get away from it. Instead of trying to get away from it, you are with the pain, and it's super, super painful, and it's super, super traumatic, and it's every fiber in your being wants to get away from it. But that is not healing. The healing happens when you create space for it. With no matter what comes up, you have a complete acceptance of the perception of you in it. That's where you create the space of what is. And in that, you allow it to fall away. If you place guilt and shame and fault in others, you put a hook into it, to the experience and to the person. So you hook them in, and the forgiveness that is not happening, it's not happening in you. So it is possible to forgive, but not to condone. And in the forgiveness, the pain in you is going to be less. Because the trauma has happened. It happened when you were a child. And the pain happened, and it happened when you were a child. The suffering is what we are piling on top of it over years and years and years and years and years. With every experience that we have, in every relationship we engage in how we parent ourselves, we keep reliving the suffering. And that happens when you place shame and guilt, because a lot of people that were abused as children, they have a lot of guilt and shame in the perception of themselves as an adult. And it was what I said before, that the person you believe yourself to be, it's mainly shaped of what other people think of you and what other people have thought about you. And then your perception of what you thought that they said about you, that is where we create our personality. It's also, when I talk about meditation, that the most important thing by meditating is seeking solitude. It's going somewhere where there's nobody else, because you cannot find yourself if you're with other people, because other people will keep telling you who you are, and you will keep adapting to becoming the person that you perceive you need to be with them. So by seeking solitude and being alone and sitting in silence and not doing anything, just sitting. By just sitting, you're doing a lot. You're sitting and you are being with, and you are creating space for, and that's a lot of work. That's a lot of doing, because you can never not do anything. Let me see, there was another. Yes, offers for dinner you sent me. Thank you. Can I just say thank you? I love your questions. I love the way that you keep asking, and every time there's something that you don't understand, you keep asking another question. Absolutely love it. Keep it coming. I love that. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if I have explained what you asked me, because um, you asked me about the perception of reality, where you said when you say that this is not real, what do you mean? I hope I have just explained it to you, that there is no you, there's a perception of you, and there is nothing in you where you can say, "Oh, this is me," because if you pick it apart, then you will find out that there is no that perception of a you is not tied up to anything. It's tied up to a perception. It's not tied up to anything real. Another fun thing that I think is super interesting. We say that this is my body. We perceive this is my body, and this is my hands, and this is my arms, and this is my legs, and this is where I am. This is my body. This is me. We think of it like that, but in reality, what we perceive as our body, it's only muscular tension that makes us know that we have a body. So, for example, a lot of people have lower back pain. They have muscular tension in the lower back, and they go through their entire lives with immense pain in the lower back, which obviously shape how they move and how they think. I mean, if you're driven with pain, you're not, bubbly, happily, present in your life and going for a run and, oh, let's do this and that, because you are just, in pain. Or, for example, if you feel up here on the shoulder, you might feel that there's like tension. You've got meiosis, which is like muscle tension, that you have that the lactic acid is collected in the muscles, and that creates that tension, and it hurts when you push up there. If you are one of the people that have tension headaches because of tension in your neck, you clench your jaw, you might grind your teeth during the night, and you have that headache, that tension headache, that kind of going up like a helmet because of the muscular tension in your neck and in your jaw. Did you know that the moment that you die, all of that tension is gone? You cannot desiccate a body and take a muscle and in the muscle see where the meiosis was sitting. You can't look at the muscle here or in the neck or in the lower back and see in the muscle that there's any tension, because there's no tension left. The tension is gone the moment you die. And it's because the muscular tension that we have, it's not connected with the muscles. It's between the ears. The neck tension you have is happening between the ears. The jaw clenching that you have is between the ears. The lower back pain you have, it's between the ears. It's how you perceive your body. It's also why that some people that have their leg amputated, they experience phantom pain in the leg that no longer exists, because it's between the ears. And other people that have a leg amputated, they have no issue whatsoever. It seems like, and there's no definitive studies proving this, but it seems like that the pain that we experience, the bodily pain that we experience, is tied into how much we identify with the body. So the more headache you have, the more tummy ache you have, the more lower back pain you have, the more phantom pain you have, it's directly tied into how much you identify, not specifically with that body part, but with your body in general. Because some people, they have the ability to lose a leg and then find other solutions for how to walk and run. Some people, they can be in an accident and get a traumatic brain injury or concussion, and they never experience any kind of pain, even though they were thrown through the air with whatever happened during the accident, and they should be in immense pain, and they don't experience any of that. It seems like that the identifying that we have with our physical being is creating the pain that we experience in the body. which I find super, super interesting, because the identifying and the clinging and the forcefulness that we have with identifying, it's creating so much suffering in our lives. A lot of people, for example, if they get fired from their work, they completely fall apart. You also know about the people that have had a long life in a work they really, really love, and then they get pension and their lives completely fall apart, because they're identifying the person that they believe themselves to be, and the identifying they had in that is falling away. Where other people, they just move differently. I don't know if you know that Bruce Lee quote where he says, "Be like water." What he talks about is a little bit about this, actually, that in the dualistic mind, where you got the ego that gets all the pain and is identifying with the body and is identifying with the one that you are through your position in work and your education and your IQ and your gender and all of that, the ego is identifying with all that. At the same time, you have the opposite, which is the authentic, the observer. And to go back to Bruce Lee and his simile, that where he talks about be like water. If you imagine water running on very, very dry soil, it at some point, some of the branches of water is going to reach somewhere like a dead end where it can't get any further. The ego in us is going to be forceful about getting any further. This doesn't work. I'm going to be forceful about it. I'm going to will myself through it and all that. What water does, and what the observer does, and the authentic part of you does, is that it just accepts that, okay, the water can't go any further. The water is just by being, is going to raise, and then it's going to find different branches to go in another direction instead. So when Bruce Lee talk about being like water, that's it. Instead of being forceful about wanting to go from there to there, and in your mind, you have an expectation about what you need to do to get from there to there. That is so forceful, so locked into the ego, and nothing can happen. I mean, no reality can happen. For example, a lot of us, we have it with Christmas, or with any other birthdays, or Halloween, or Valentine's, or something like that. We have a very strict idea about how it's going to happen, when are the guests going to come, what are we going to eat, what are we going to do, when are the presents going to be open. And if something is not happening exactly like we want it, then everything falls apart. Oh my goodness, weddings, talk about weddings. This is exactly it. The ego is so tied into controlling everything, and you can't control anything because there's no you and there's nothing to control. So with the weddings, it's like they control what to wear when the guests are coming, and then the white doves are being, released and everything, and they don't take into account that the doves got diarrhea, So it's just, you can't control everything. It's absolutely impossible. It's only the ego that believes that it can control everything, and it can decide how things should be, how things should act. When in reality, you can't. Things happen, life happens. And that's when you are the observer. That's when you are in the part that just are. And whatever happens, it's completely fine. Oh, I thought it was going that way. Clearly I'm not. Okay, I'm just going to sit down, wait and see. Oh, okay, now I'm flowing that way instead. That is where you are in the authentic. And just before I end, I just want to emphasize again, both the ego and the authentic, it's part of the illusion, because it's dualistic. It's like yin and yang. It's two different, it's two opposites. One is clenched and forceful. The other one is accepting and flowing. Both are still in the illusion. It's much nicer to be in the authentic. Your life is less forceful, and it's less constricted when you are in the authentic. And by being in the authentic, you practice the ability to let go and just be with. And the more you practice that in your mind and you can let go and just be with. I'm not talking about apathy. I have to say that. I'm not talking about resignation and apathy. For example, somebody that has their leg amputated and sit down and say, well, now my life is so I can't do anything. That's resigning and apathy. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about acknowledging and accepting what is. Okay, my leg was amputated. Let's see how I can run with a prosthetic. So it's about accepting what is and going with where life takes you, because you can't control it anyway. Remember, the pigeon's got diarrhea. You can't control anything at all. Both are in the illusion, but the more you practice to be with what is, the easier non-duality and understanding that there is no you and there's no thing to control. You just are. You inhale the mountains and you exhale the rivers. You are part of all of that. There is no you. You're not limited to the perception of a you and a biological you. You are so much more, and you already are. You already are. Okay, that was the last thing I wanted to say. I just want to see if there's any questions. Yeah, exactly. The body is a concept too. Exactly. Perfect. That was what I had to say today. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for being here. And I love all your questions. Please keep them coming. I love to interact like this. I love to talk about biochemistry and biology and all that, and how that perceived reality shape who we think we are. But also I love to talk about non-duality and that there is actually no thing. So yeah. Yep. Thank you for today. Have a lovely day. I wish all the best to you and yours. Bye.